Welcome back, Mary. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Palmer.
For this segment, we're going to be talking about autoimmune disorders and nutritional deficiencies. We hear an awful lot about vitamin D deficiency being a setup for autoimmune conditions. What are your thoughts about that?
It's a huge issue, but it's not the only one. So I see a lot of people supplementing with vitamin D, and it's a little concerning because it is a hormone and it is something that the body is supposed to make on its own. So I always advise people when you're wanting to increase your D levels that you need to get outside. If you live in a very cloudy area or cold area, or your work prohibits you from being outside during those hours, you can always get a sunlight. You can take unfermented cod liver oil, or, if, at the very last ditch effort, then supplement. But try to do everything before that. One of the reasons why you don't want to take supplements or specifically vitamins in isolation is that they work with other vitamins. And a major one with vitamin D is K2. K2 is not found in vegetables. It's found in mostly animal products, with the exception of fermentation of natto, which is soy, or also chickpeas. You can get it from fermenting that as well. But traditionally, all those foods are out on autoimmune diets, so it can be a little tricky to get. If you have access to raw butter, that's always the best choice.
Okay, that's great. So, besides vitamin D, what other kind of nutritional deficiencies do you often see in people with autoimmune conditions?
I'll tell you the biggest one, and this is the one that I wish I saw more of in the news and in forums and blogs, and that is polysaccharides. Polysaccharides are responsible for regulating the immune system. So if it's in overdrive, as it is in autoimmune conditions, it'll bring it back down to normal speed. And if it's underactive, it'll also bring them back up to normal speed. So it's very important for the immune function. There's 8 of them that are essential. So if we don't get them in our diet, we become deficient. And that actually leaves a hole in which viruses, bacteria can attach to the cell and make us sick. So one of the biggest things I do with my clients is work on polysaccharides, building up those stores in their body and rebalancing the immune system. Another one, of course, is amino acids. We all know it's so important to work on the gut lining and on mental health as well, because these conditions can be very difficult to deal with. And amino acids are really responsible for how healthy our gut lining is and how easily we can deal with the stresses of illness.
Got it. Well, that's amazing to know because I don't think many people know about these things. Let's go back to polysaccharides for a minute because that may
Sure.
be a new concept and word to many people. And if somebody, maybe you can give us some examples of what they are and what kind of
Sure.
foods they're found in. And then if people want a resource to learn more, where would they look?
Sure. So polysaccharides are in any long chain starch, but there's 8 that are essential. So I want people to not confuse any polysaccharide with the essential polysaccharide. These also go by the name of glyconutrients, and these can be found in most traditional diets. If you go to anywhere where, white bread and flour and sugar hasn't really touched civilization yet, you'll see it in almost every meal, all 8 of these. These are found in shrimp shells, in bone marrow. They're found in Asian mushrooms and chanterelles, the wild mushrooms, not the white or the portobello. They're found in aloe and a great deal of traditional medicinal herbs, I think for a reason, because they're so healing.
Interesting. And if I wanted to find out more about it, where would I look? Is there a book I could read?
Yeah, I think one of the best introductory books is called Sugars That Heal by Dr. Mondoa. He's a doctor out of Cameroon who's done a great deal of research on this. Once you become familiar with all 8 of these sugars and what their names are, you can look them up on PubMed and see thousands of studies.
Fantastic. Thank you. And now,
You're
now
welcome.
on amino acids, tell us a little bit more about that. What are some of the names that we should look for, and how do we know how much to supplement, and where do we find more information?
Sure. Well, L-glutamine is probably the most famous, right? Everyone talks about using L-glutamine for healing their gut lining. That one's very effective. Others that you may have heard of are L-tyrosine, DLPA. Many of these build up the serotonin and the pleasure chemicals because they are formed in the gut, right? Serotonin is formed in the gut. A lot of our dopamine is formed in the gut. So these amino acids can be really important. Dosage is specific to the person, so it really varies. Someone can need very little or a great deal. And of course, you can always get them through food. That's always the safest way. So I would see a practitioner who does amino acid therapy if you're really interested in something like that.
Got it. Thank you. Well, it seems like a big topic. We'll have to explore that a little bit further. And there may be one remaining nutrient that you feel is extremely important for reversing autoimmune conditions or preventing them. Tell us about that.
Yes, this is cholesterol. Cholesterol is our best friend when we want to improve our immune system. It is the food of the immune system, the food of the nervous system. So specifically, if you have something like MS, you want a lot of cholesterol-rich foods. We're talking about egg yolks, saturated fat. All of these things nourish the system and really help. Cholesterol is not the demon that it's been made out to be. It's actually one of your best friends. And ironically, the more you eat of it, the less you have, so you don't have to worry about high levels of cholesterol while eating these cholesterol-rich foods. Cholesterol is really the markers that doctors test. That's a marker of inflammation. So you're going on an anti-inflammatory diet, you're feeding yourself with lots of cholesterol, your levels aren't going to be in the dangerous zones. In fact, many of the dangerous zones are reversed from what most people have heard. It's actually being too low in cholesterol. That's really more of a marker for death and disease.
I have heard the same thing, and I've read a study that says that the countries that have the highest cholesterol levels live the longest. They have the most longevity, and the countries with the lowest cholesterol levels have the highest all-cause mortality or the highest death rates, which is just, it goes against everything that we've been learning since the 1950s about cholesterol.
Yes, and ironically, all this was in the scientific studies, but no one was putting it together for the public. So unless you really dug and read these studies yourself, you would fall into the low cholesterol myth that really was never rooted in science and has caused a great deal of health conditions.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this amazing information, Mary. It seems so cutting edge, and yet it's based in this ancestral tradition that we've known for a long, long time.
Thank you for letting me be here.
I look forward to talking with you in our next segment.
Me too.
Thank you for tuning in today. If you liked this, please follow me on Facebook and Twitter at Palmer Kippola, and click like below and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks, and take good care. Till next time.